Hello, Jason Tadlock, Superintendent of the Elkhorn Area School District, with another response to facts and questions related to the referendum. Yesterday, I was speaking to a community member, and they asked, what exactly is going to happen if the referendum doesn't pass? The district this year is facing a $3.4 million budgetary shortfall without the referendum. And that would put us in a position where going into next year, the school board and administration and staff would have to work together to come up with some very significant cost savings ideas. This is something that the ad hoc committee worked with and looked at last year when they were doing their study and made the recommendation to go to referendum. It's something that from an administrative team and as a school board, we look at on an annual basis, what are the cost saving measures and strategies that we're going to implement as, at least since my arrival, and I'm in my 12th year here for all 11 years, each and every year, we've had to look at reducing anywhere from $600,000 to upwards of $1 million per year due to the ongoing shortfalls. And when I say reduced, it's been a combination of budgetary reductions and or increases in revenue via the open enrollment. So I thought I'd take a moment. This video will be a little bit longer so I can get into details in regards to the potential cost saving strategies that we'll have to implement and put in place without the support of a referendum. These are in no particular order. They're not in any prioritization level, but they are strategies that would be up for consideration. And the dollar amount that we're looking at is not insignificant. Again, it's a $3.4 million shortfall this year that grows to that $7 million projected shortfall within 4 years. So this year we already did, as part of our $1.25 million strategy in reductions, we reduced bus routes by 3. If we weren't to have a referendum, we'd likely have to, again, reduce the bus routes further and or even eliminate transportation zones. Currently, we provide transportation within all the city limits. State statute is you just need to provide transportation to those that live within 2 miles or further out than 2 miles from the school district. So likely we'd have to consolidate and reduce bus routes again. That either means a reduction in services or longer bus rides for students. Strategies that districts have implemented around the country is moving from 5 to 4 days. That's a strategy that would need to be looked at. There are savings in transportation costs, utilities, and some staffing costs when that is taken into consideration. Reduction in student instructional days by 5 days. Currently, we attend school more than the minimum required amount. We have more instructional days built in. That gives us flexibility when there's inclement weather days or we need to call school off. We could use an approach such as furlough days. You've seen that around the state employee groups or colleges or universities where they reduce the number of contracted days for employees. Likewise, would be looking at reducing instructional days. That 5 days is the middle school and high school level. We actually have an additional 12 days worth of time at the K through 5 level. So while the school would experience savings, we also recognize there's a trade-off there that you would have less time working with kids, which can have a negative impact on achievement. But 2, you also have incurred or greater incurred daycare expenses for those within the local community. Those are potential savings that we'd have to look at. Eliminate all non-required instructional aid positions and or convert regular aid positions to special education. We have approximately 20 positions in the school district, which are called regular ed aides. They do critical work delivering interventions, instructional supports to students throughout the school district, but they are not legally required, such as special education aides, and they are that added benefit. That would be an area that we'd have to look at. I do want to clarify that any of these strategies that would be implemented, the board has committed to using an attrition model where the positions would be closed or just not filled as we have retirements and or people who resign or leave their positions. We are not going to look at doing mass layoffs amongst the staff. That's something that we've committed to, and we feel we could get to whatever savings we need to through that attrition model. Would also have to look at a reduction of custodial staffing and shift their assigned duties to other staff and or get students involved. The costs of full-time custodian and part-time custodians are listed there on the right. Would have to reduce teaching positions, which would result in added class sizes. Classroom teachers' salary benefits range from $85,000 to $100,000 per position on average. We know that we'd have to look at strategies to reduce that staffing footprint. What's hard for our district, you may have seen other districts in our area make significant staff layoffs or cuts, but many of those districts were in declining enrollments. Our enrollment continues to grow, and so anytime you're reducing positions, it has that negative reciprocal effect of increasing class sizes. Reduce office positions. That would be, secretarial staff, administrative assistant staff, salary, benefits all combined equates to about $75,000 for full-time office positions. Reduce program offerings. We have to be very careful with this, but this was something the ad hoc committee looked at. What's our entire co-curricular budget? This isn't just sports, this is clubs, all those organizations. And many of the expenses related to those events are tied up in officiating crews, coaching, compensation, and so forth. But one of the suggestions was, do you go to a pay-for-play model? I think that's a very risky approach. You could capture $925,000 in potential savings there, but you also have to consider how many students do you then lose to open enrollment, to other districts, which carries behind them roughly $9,000 per student. And I have seen other districts who have gone to that model where it costs them much more than any savings they would have ever realized. But that's an area that would have to be looked at. Reduce administrative positions, administrative supervisor positions, salary benefits altogether on average run about $130,000 per year. Those are areas that would also have to be looked at and reduced due to attrition. Looking at closing a school site and shifting students, that's really not feasible for us as, again, we continue to grow. Other districts, like you may have seen a neighboring district in Burlington where they closed a school site, they had declining enrollment and they had space in their other buildings. We currently don't have sufficient space to close sites and move them, but that may be something we'd have to look at in the future. Center elementary schools is an idea that was not popular with the ad hoc committee, but the reality is, as we've seen in the surrounding school districts, that was a model that they had to move to in order to get more efficient with their staffing. And so in moving to center schools, what that means is you have, instead of neighborhood schools like Jackson, Westside, and Tibbetts, you would have a K2 center, a 3-4 center, a 5-6 center, whatever that structure might look like. And the kids, as they go through elementary, they move to those different grade level schools, and everybody in the district is within that same school. That allows you to then collapse and use attrition in different staffing positions. So if we have 9 total elementary teachers at first grade, it allows you to go down to 8 or 7 and equally distribute the class sizes across. However, looking at that and using that type of attrition would put our elementary class sizes at 28 plus, and at many grade levels probably over 30. Asking the public for more funds, that was the strategy that the ad hoc committee chose to elect, along with some of the cost savings ideas to get to the $1.75 million in cost savings. But that is why the referendum is out there. Increase school fees for all community groups. The current fees that we collect from community groups is $21,000 per year. We currently open our facilities to not-for-profit community organizations at no cost, as we feel that's a benefit to our local community. The organizations, the people that benefit from that usage are all taxpayers, and to be frank, by policy, we just don't feel right charging those groups when they're not looking to make a profit off of it. Private entities who are for profit, we do charge fees, but the bulk of our time used are by not-for-profit groups. By starting to charge more fees for that, those fees would eventually just get passed on to the user groups, but that is an area that the board could look at. Increase student fees. Our current annual student fee collection is $126,000. That's an area we did do a slight increase of the student fees as part of that strategy this year. That's something that, again, the board could look at. Across the board, pay decreases, whatever percentage is needed to make up that shortfall, could be redistributed or could be made up through pay decreases and or pay freezes. I've seen neighboring districts have to go to pay freezes. The downside to that is being able to retain your staff and your quality staff. The reality is if people begin receiving pay decreases or not having pay increases, we're not likely to be able to retain them very long. But that is something that'll have to be looked at. Freeze the district health insurance contribution amount for several years. We have implemented those strategies. We've gone to a self-funded model. We are currently projecting to hold it at a 5% increases. To give you an idea on the restructuring that took place when we got our insurance quote prior to last year, the lowest bid that came in was 31% increase over what the previous plan design was. We had to significantly change and modify our plan design to get it down to where we projected a 0% increase. And that has had an impact for some employees. It's put them in a position where, it's really impacted them because of the health systems that they utilize and or the doctors they visit aren't covered in a traditional manner under our current plan. Reduce or eliminate some employee benefits that are there. We don't have large benefit packages beyond the health insurance component, but, everything would have to be looked at from that structure and reevaluated. That's pretty much a pretty comprehensive list of what we had looked at through the ad hoc committee, items that would have to be considered by the school board. I know that we're not presenting it in the way that you may have seen other school districts where they say if this does not pass, we are going to eliminate 20 plus positions. The reality is what I can tell you is that if it does not pass, we will go into a hiring freeze and we'll have to put a prioritization on only the most absolute needed positions and or the positions that we're legally required to provide. You'll more than likely see a reduction in the bus routes, the transportation services, as that is discretionary and optional, the level of service that's currently provided. And you'll probably also likely see a reduction in the number of days that students attend school. These are strategies that we've seen our neighbors have to implement. Center schools is another one that we're one of the last remaining districts in our area that utilize neighborhood schools. Most of the other districts have had to go to some sort of center school model to get those efficiencies I talked about. So those are likely the cost-saving strategies and impacts that we'll see and feel right away. Again, less staff, probably less school days, and less transportation services would probably be the first impacts that we'd see as we roll into this initial budgetary reduction that we'd have to make. Hope that answers any questions that you have. Wanted to have that transparency related to this subject. It is a very important subject, and I know the person that asked me the question, they had shared that a neighboring community was very upset when they hadn't passed a referendum and then the district had to implement these cost savings measures. And many of them had communicated that had we known that this is what the district was going to do, we would have supported that referendum. We want to make sure that all the cards are on the table so that people are aware of what is potentially at stake there. And if you ever have any questions related to that, don't hesitate to give me a call or shoot me an email. Thank you very much. You can find more information related to the referendum on elkhornschools.org. Have a great day and take care.